Greetings, guys. So for this video, I want to make a caveat to our next video where I will be showing a recipe in the context of the matriline or the grandmother-mother-daughter relationship and just ancestors in general. And I've been preparing to make this video since Pele was born. And I've been hesitating because I felt like even though I made my coming clean video, I just skimmed the surface of the reasons why we engage in animal foods. And I felt like I could do it more justice in an overall way, even though I'll be going into details about their various vitamins and nutrients, and not just in relationship to animal food, but in relationship to traditional ways of eating, ancestral ways of eating, and being and living and all this other stuff. But I wanted to give a deeper overall reasoning why we engage in animal foods, or why I engage in animal foods. I don't really speak for Lev. But I wanted to give another overall reasoning for why we engage in animal foods in this video. So that's what this is. I'm going to go over the ecological reasons first, and then the intercultural reasons, and then the personal reasons. So stay tuned.
A voice calling from within our core.
What are we here for? We realize that our power lies
in how we live our lives,
and how we choose to show up.
So we choose to show up as rooted crowns, and this is our living prayer. Birth from the earth,
on a path to reclaim our name,
nature, ancestral medicine to heal our home. We sow this prayer in our bodies between many hands and upon our land.
In direct response to self-hate, for scarcity, and climate change.
But it's simple for real. We plant food forests and concrete jungles,
inspiring youth to lead us out the struggle,
nourishing our bodies as living proof,
sharing all we do to amplify this truth.
Yeah, we documenting it all,
bringing it to you so you can feel this call in person, online.
Yeah, we standing tall, rooted crowns, let's rock with it, y'all.
Okay. So my ecological reasons. First of all, I want to say that this is obviously not in support of industrial agriculture, whether that's confined animal systems, confined animal factory systems, or monocrops. I do not support them. I don't ever support confined animal factory systems. I don't, and I have the luxury to do that. And it is a luxury, it's a privilege. And I also try my best not to support monocrops. And the ways to do this really is just to build relationships with local farms. So that's what we're working towards doing. We have a couple that we're going to visit. Definitely one this month, and then definitely more when we get south. And for now, that is just what we're moving towards, and we try to support local farms as much as possible. But like not supporting industrial animal products and not supporting industrial plant products, to me, is really the same thing. It's not like you're not supporting competing organizations. In my understanding, these are pretty much owned by the same organizations overall. And if they're not obviously owned by the same organizations, I say just keep looking deeper and deeper at their funders. I can't guarantee this, but I've been told this by some people that I really respect. So I've just been kind of holding it in my consciousness that when you stop eating animal products, you're supporting the same industry that's growing monocrops. And these monocrops situations are actually, for the industrial organizations, easier to grow than it is to raise animals.
Commercial agriculture finds it difficult to produce meat, milk, and eggs, and easy to grow plants. This is a fact. There is a myth in the world that we cannot possibly produce enough meat, milk, and eggs to feed all the population of the planet. This myth comes from the arable, from industrial agriculture, because producing meat, milk, and eggs on an industrial scale is very difficult. The only model that works commercially for them are the confined operations, the CAFOs, those cruel operations that the films are about, that we all see. Those battery chickens and those poor cows that never see the sunlight, they're locked up in the barn, and they're fed leftovers from the food industry together with the packaging, with the plastic and the paper on the packaging. These poor cows eating all day long. It is a very, very cruel system, but that's the only model that produces profit. And then the government on top of them with all their regulations, and then these kind of animals are ill all the time, so they have to spend a lot of money on antibiotics, on steroids, on other drugs. So producing industrially, commercially, producing meat, milk and eggs is expensive and difficult and troublesome. While growing plants is a piece of cake. We have great big powerful machines that just crawl along these fields, and we have chemicals. And the whole structure is worked out to an hour, to a couple of hours, by Monsanto, by Bayer, by other chemical monopolies in this world who are multi-trillion corporations.
And so there may be some reasoning behind why there's such a huge push and money, so much money behind people saying eat wheat and soy and corn as opposed to eating beef and things like that, especially beef, because it's more expensive for them to raise beef. But that is the conventional way to raise beef and other animals. What I'm talking about is the regenerative way. And there was this really interesting statement made by Natasha Campbell-McBride, the founder of the GAPS protocol, that basically said that some scientists said to her that if we were to convert a quarter of our arable agriculture land to pasture land, regenerative pasture land with animals, we would not only sequester carbon, but we could reverse global warming in 10 years. So I think that's a really powerful statement, and it's literally the reason why I'm like, yeah, I'm going to share why I'm eating animal foods and why I'm supporting animal foods, because I think that there's a lot of value in it. And there's also a lot of other people who think this as well. There's this documentary called Sacred Cow, where one of the quotes that they say is, "The animals chomping on grass stimulates new growth. Their hooves, urine, and manure work critical microbes into the land, increasing the biodiversity of life underground. And this helps the carbon sequestration process." And then if you go even further with the Savory Institute and Alan Savory, who has an amazing TED Talk, you see how doing this holistically, managing these animals in a way that mimics the prey-predator relationship that happened before humans really got involved. When you do it that way, you can actually also reverse desertification. So there's all this value in animal products for the land. And the thing is, it's not competing most often. It doesn't have to compete with the land we would use to grow food, because you can raise animals on land that would be too steep or too dry or too rocky to grow food on. And that's most of the land that we use today to grow animals. And then also, they talk about water, right? Like how beef takes up so much water. But the thing is, from what I understand, what I've researched, that water that they're talking about is actually both the water on the land and also from the sky. And if you take out the green water that comes from the sky, it's actually the same amount of water that you get when you grow rice or avocados or walnuts or sugar. So not to say that that's talking about conventional animal products, and it's very different when you have regenerative land, holistically managed animals. So I think that this is really powerful. And even if you think about this thing called the least harm theory that's been presented by a vegan author a while ago, they said, if you just go off of the least harm, one of the reasons that in addition to the fact that it's just so bad for the soil and the earth itself, one of the reasons why I don't support monocrops and I don't really think that eating vegan is cruel free is because there are so many animals and beings that are killed, that are either trampled over or poisoned or pushed out by way of monocrops. Millions, billions even of organisms, because nothing can live on that land when you're growing monocrops and using those chemicals. So whereas in comparison to animal like a cow, 1 acre, you have all these microbes, all these different animals, all these different beings living, and then you kill one animal, as opposed to killing so much more to be able to eat your wheat sausages, So I just think that there is definitely one isn't above the other in relationship to like cruelty. Like industrial agriculture is cruel, and there is a way to live harmoniously within the cycle of life and death, so that you can kill an animal in a way that is not killing everything, like just a mass genocide. And then this kind of leads me into my second section of, why I support animal foods. And that's because even if I didn't eat the animal foods, I would still never demonize people who do. Because all traditional cultures eat animal foods. So you're literally like separating yourself from the majority of humankind. And like it's honoring some places, many places around the world, they cannot grow that much plants, and they live, not only do they live like with these animal foods and that's all they eat, but they live well. Like Weston A. Price, the dentist that I mentioned in my Coming Clean video, from the 1930s, who did research all over the world looking for healthy traditional communities, he found so many, like the Maasai and the Eskimos and stuff like that. He found communities who lived almost completely off of animal products and were living very healthfully, straight teeth, solid bone structures, no degenerative diseases. So that is something to honor and to kind of celebrate, because if we're going to live locally all over the world, then some people within their local environments are going to be eating animal foods. And it's to honor them and to honor our history and to honor that animal foods. I don't really want to go too deep into this yet, but like are what built our brains, because our brains run off of fat, but we'll come back to that. But also there is a principle in traditional communities that honors reciprocity, giving and receiving in balance. And the reality is, when we take care of animals, especially particularly to heal our land, the reciprocity, we take care of them, we protect them from predators, we keep them healthy, we heal them if they're sick. All of this input we put in, right? And the output is that at a certain time in their life, we give them the cleanest kill possible. We let them live a full, stress-free, abundant life to the peak of their age, and then we give them a stress-free death. And that is what is economically feasible. That is honors reciprocity for the people who are putting in this input. It gives them an output that makes sense. And it also gives the animal a much more peaceful death than they would if they were in the wild. Because if they were in the wild and they were killed by a predator, they would be ripped into pieces. And sometimes they were ripped into pieces while fully conscious. So it's just understanding that there is a give and a take, and we are giving so much to these animals' lives, and we also take something too that will be taken regardless. Our lives will be taken. Eventually, we are all going to die. And so we take it into account. So many cultures around the world take it into account, and they give death in a way that is honoring the animal. And I think that that's beautiful, and I think that it is important to respect most of humanity and not to hold this perspective of like we need to eat a diet that requires supplements. So now we're going to get into the individual nutritional stuff. If we did not eat animal products, we have to eat certain supplements, because those vitamins and nutrients are not available without animal foods, solely in plant foods. So everyone knows about B12 and they think that they can supplement with that. But it's been shown more and more that supplements are not regulated. They do not have to be proven effective, and they may not be working. There are people who were vegan who were taking B12 and other supplements, and who did their blood work when they started to take them, and did their blood work after taking them for 2 years, and their B12 and the other nutrients, some of which I'll talk about, actually went down.
While I was in school, I got my blood work done, and my vitamin D was low, my iron was low, my B12 was low, but it wasn't like critically low. And so a year later, once I was done school, I got my blood work done again, and the vitamin D, the B12, and the iron were like critically low. And so this whole time I had been supplementing since the first blood work test with those vitamins, and my levels didn't improve. They actually got worse.
So it's just really interesting. There's this really great overall quote from the Sacred Cow documentary that I mentioned that basically says, the connection between nutrition and ecosystem health is starting to make some headway into mainstream media. Everyone's trying to figure out how to feed the world in the most sustainable and healthy way. However, we've allowed corporate interests, big food, flawed science, clickbait media, and naive celebrities to steer us away from what a truly nutrient-dense, ethical, and sustainable and regenerative food system really is. The mantra that all meat is bad influences how we're training dietitians, shaping our dietary guidelines, designing school lunch policies, and funding for nutrition-related research. So, like, a lot of us think that meat is bad, right? We think that cholesterol is going to create heart attacks. We think that fat is going to make us fat, you know? And even though there's been Time magazine covers that say, oh, we were wrong about butter, you know, and even though, like, you can do enough research and find that cholesterol is it's half of the dry weight of our body. Like, it builds, it's so important. It's a vital part of our cell membrane structure. It's a precursor to all these different vitamins, vitamin D, bile salts, sex hormones, adrenal hormones, myelin. It's like, and an antioxidant. It's necessary for memory and learning. It's so important, right? Cholesterol. But people are thinking that it associates with heart attacks because of these studies that, like, Ansel Keys and Anchikov, or whatever that Russian scientist was, who, like, did these studies that were faulty in so many ways, like feeding vegetarian rabbits cholesterol. Like, they're vegetarian, of course it's not going to be good for their health. And so there's all of this research and money behind this research that is faulty, and not really addressing the reality that not only do we not get B12, but we also don't get vitamin D. And vitamin D, yes, you can get it from the sun, but a lot of places do not have enough sun. And even the places that do have enough sun, you have to be kind of like naked in the sun to get the amount of, at the highest sun of the day or something like that, to get the amount of vitamin D you actually need. And if you have to get it from foods, that's animal foods. And the funny thing about this is those vitamins, B12, vitamin D, and the other vitamins I mentioned, like, pretty much all of them are in butter, liver, so butter, organ meats, seafood. Like, those are pretty much the superfoods of animal foods. And, like, quality fats, butter, but other quality fats. And so if you need to get vitamin D, which most of us on this planet do because we do not have enough sun, you have to get it from animal foods. And the supplements may not be effective, especially if they're not balanced with vitamin A. And so people think that you can get vitamin A from carrots, right? And supposedly there was some, like, weird propaganda from, like, some like wartime where they were, like, they didn't want people to know that they had the zoom in tool, whatever those things are called. So they lied and said that it's because their pilots were eating a lot of carrots, so they had great vision or something like that. Supposedly this is the case, but regardless, vitamin A is supposedly be able to be, transformed from beta carotene. But the thing is, it's a very ineffective transformation. Like, a lot of people can't do it. Like, if you have poor thyroid function, if your digestion is impaired, if you have a lack of healthy fats, the conversion from beta carotene to vitamin A will not happen. And you have to have a balance of vitamin A and vitamin D and vitamin K2, which I'll get into in a second, for them all to be healthy in your body system and not to be making problems because it's too much of one or the other. And you get the proper balance in animal foods. You wouldn't get with a supplement. So yeah, and vitamin A, of course, we all know it supports the eyes, but it's also being, like, shown that it may support what else? Growth, immunity, reproduction, differentiation of cells and tissues. It may support antioxidants in cell membranes, protects against environmental toxin, contributes to regulation of bone growth, protects against asthma and allergies, prevents the formation of kidney stones, protects against fatty liver disease. And again, you find it in seafoods, organ meats, eggs, dairy products, generally raw dairy products. And then we have vitamin K2, right? This is another thing that people say, well, you can get vitamin K from plants. But we're talking specifically about vitamin K2, which is a derivative of vitamin K that only is in animal foods. And vitamin K2, it shuttles. It supports the shuttle that transports calcium into. Well, it is the shuttle that transports calcium into the bones. And without it, calcium won't strengthen the bones. You have to have vitamin K2 to do this. It's found in fatty sources, and it also comes with the cofactors that I mentioned too that makes it absorb. And again, it's in egg yolks, it's in milk, it's in cheese, it's in liver, beef, chicken. So that's the main ones. If you go and research Wesley Price Foundation, they basically talk about vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin K2. But if you go deeper and continue to research, you'll come across things like choline, creatine, taurine, methionine, glycine, selenium, iodine, iron. Of course, you get irons from plants, but is it easily absorbable? That's what you have to wonder. Like, you can get protein from plants, but is it the right kind of protein? No, it's not. It has a different amino acid structure, so it's not getting in our bodies in the same ways that animal foods do. There's all these different nutrients and vitamins and long chain fatty acids, EPA, DHA, amylase, that zinc, that in some ways you can get them from plants, but it's usually harder. And some things you can't get from plants. And some things maybe you can change into, like you can change omega-3s and omega-6s from plant sources into EPA and DHA. But it requires 2 conversions, and most people cannot do that. They don't have the enzymes. They don't have the energy to do it, especially babies, especially pregnant women, especially nursing women. It's just really important to understand, for me, that there are nutrients that I can get more easily from animal foods, while also staying in connection with the rest of the humanity that eats animal foods by necessity, and because they're local and they're not based in shipping avocados from Mexico and all this other stuff, and also supporting the people who are helping to regenerate the land and to save our experience of home on this planet. Like, all of that is collapsed in this dietary choice. And I will, like I said, continue to share, go in deeper into these vitamins and these nutrients, especially highlighting in relationship to something I'm eating, a recipe I'm sharing. But I just wanted to give this overall idea because I feel like it's important. And like I said, I was vegan once and I stepped out of it by myself, and I was really lonely and really quiet because of this. This was several years ago. And then recently, kind of reaffirming the necessity of not only just eating meat randomly and hiding it from the people I know, but like really understanding the value of like the fats, not eating vegetable oils. I'm going to have a whole video on vegetable oils, or like probably most vegetable oils, especially industrially processed vegetable oils. But really making this choice to stand in this fully recently. In doing this, I was able to start doing research, and I found this whole movement of people who were vegan and stopped being vegan. They call themselves ex-vegans, and a lot of the symptoms that I've experienced, they experience, and more that I didn't experience. I'm so grateful that I didn't, but that they're experiencing. Everyone's experiencing pretty much the same symptoms, and I just feel really inspired to not only stand fully into this, mission and this this presence of supporting people to understand the value of animal foods and our relationship to them, but also to feel affirmed if they're questioning their vegan diet. Like, I just want to be another person saying, yeah, I did that, and this is why I stopped. And yeah, I'm just grateful to share. So this is pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you check out the next video. I'm super excited to share this really, really, really nourishing recipe and just this really nourishing experience that I had with my mom and Lev and Pele, and talking about my grandma and stuff. And yeah, I hope that, maybe you can tell me your experience with what I've shared and with your diet, your lifestyle, your choices. And let me know if this affirms for you, or if you don't agree at all. Maybe we can talk about it more. I definitely don't profess to be an expert at this, not even a little bit. I'm doing my research. I'm studying right now. Everything I'm studying, I'm making sure I look at the sources, and I'm, cross-checking my sources, and I'm trying to stay, in a way that feels earnest, like honest and open, and it's just that over the last 10 years in studying, this has been more and more affirmed for me. So it's where I'm at right now, and I'll continue to share where I'm at, where I'm growing to, what I'm growing within, and all that through these videos. So again, thanks for watching. If you like what you watched, give me a like, please subscribe, help us get to that 100. And yeah, check out our Patreon page, where we'll be sharing like the more detailed recipes and more sort of resiliency project updates. I'll be talking more about some of my research there as well, and just all of the perks that we have. So yeah, check that out. All right. Peace, y'all.